Ren Takeda stared at the strange listing glowing on his handheld comm device. 3 days without a decent freight contract had left him desperate enough to browse the unique opportunities section of Zenith Station's network, a digital bazaar of questionable jobs and even more questionable clients. Seeking human companion for one night, discretion required, payment generous. Signed, Alara of the Meridian. He scrolled through the sparse details twice more, searching for the catch. 10,000 credits for a single night of companionship with a Meridian. The crystalline skin species was known for their rigid social hierarchies and general disdain for humans. Something wasn't adding up. Planning to sell yourself now, Takeda. The gravelly voice belonged to Koda, the scarred station bartender who had been watching him brood over his last affordable drink for the past hour. 10,000 credits, Ren muttered, turning the device so Koda could see. For one night, no specified services, just companionship. Koda's 3 eyes narrowed as he wiped a glass. Meridians don't pay for company. They barely acknowledge our existence unless they need something transported or fixed. Exactly, which means either it's a scam or, Ren trailed off. Or it's trouble, Koda finished, the kind that costs more than credits. Ren's finger hovered over the listing. His rent was due, his ship needed repairs, and the shipping guild wouldn't extend his license if he couldn't pay the annual fee next week. 10,000 credits would solve all of those problems. I'm just going to inquire, he decided, tapping the contact option. A response arrived almost instantly. Meet at the Celestial Prism, level 42, suite 7, tonight at 20:00 station time. Come alone, dress formally. The Celestial Prism was the most exclusive hotel on Zenith, catering to diplomats and wealthy merchants. Not the kind of place someone would choose for an ambush or scam. You're actually doing this? Koda asked, watching Ren down the last of his drink. What choice do I have? Besides, it's a public place. If anything seems off, I'll walk away. Ren stood, calculating how quickly he could clean up his appearance. I need those credits, Koda. The Celestial Prism lived up to its name, a towering structure of iridescent crystal and light that twisted upward through the central hub of Zenith Station. Ren felt out of place in his only decent outfit, black formal pants and a midnight blue tunic that had seen better days, but at least fit his lean frame well enough. The human receptionist raised a single eyebrow at his approach, but directed him to the private elevator for Suite 7 without question. As he ascended, Ren rehearsed opening lines and exit strategies in equal measure. Whatever this Meridian wanted, he needed to maintain control of the situation. The elevator doors opened directly into a stunning panoramic suite. The outer wall was entirely transparent, revealing the breathtaking view of the nearby gas giant Nimbus and its swirling violet-hued storms. Standing silhouetted against this cosmic backdrop was a figure that made Ren momentarily forget to breathe. She turned slowly, her crystalline skin catching the light in patterns that mimicked the stars themselves. Taller than the average human woman, her body was elegantly proportioned, with a delicate network of luminescent veins beneath her translucent skin. Her eyes were the deep purple of rare zenith amethysts, and they studied him with unmistakable curiosity. You are Ren Takeda, she said, her voice surprisingly melodic for a Meridian. Their species was known for speaking in tones that sometimes grated on human ears. And you're Alara, he remained near the elevator, maintaining distance. Your listing was intriguing. She moved toward him with fluid grace, stopping a respectful distance away. I appreciate your promptness. I know my request is unusual. 10,000 credits for companionship usually is, Ren replied, unable to keep the suspicion from his voice. What exactly are you looking for? Alara's luminescent patterns pulsed slightly, what Ren recognized as the Meridian equivalent of a blush. It is a matter of cultural tradition, she explained. Before choosing a life mate, Meridians must spend one night with someone completely outside our culture, an outsider who challenges our understanding of connection. It's called the Velshara, the Night of Foreign Souls. Ren blinked. So what, we just talk? We talk, we share experiences, we learn from one another. She gestured to a table set with exotic foods and drinks. The tradition specifies spending the night until dawn, approximately 12 of your hours engaged in cultural exchange. Nothing more intimate is required or expected. Ren relaxed slightly but remained skeptical. And why choose a human, a cargo runner specifically? Alara's eyes seemed to assess him more deeply now. Humans adapt, they survive, they feel deeply and without reservation. My culture values control and tradition above all else. She paused. And you specifically, because your profile showed someone who has seen much of the universe but belongs nowhere. I find that fascinating. Something in her gaze made Ren's pulse quicken. This was supposed to be a simple transaction conversation for credits, yet already he sensed a complexity to Alara that defied his preconceptions about meridians. 12 hours, he confirmed, making his decision. No strings attached and payment up front. Alara nodded and gestured to a small crystal on the table that pulsed with light. Your credits have been transferred. Verify if you wish. A quick check of his comm confirmed the transaction, 10,000 credits, more money than he'd seen in months. Well then, Alara of the Meridian, Ren said, finally allowing himself to smile as he approached the table. It seems we have a very long night ahead of us. He couldn't have known then how those 12 hours would change everything for both of them. Your people built this entire section of the station? Ren asked, astonished as they strolled through the luminous gardens of Zenith's upper promenade. 3 hours into their night together, and Alara had insisted they leave the confines of the suite to experience the station properly. The Meridian Quarter gleamed with organic architecture that seemed alive, buildings that curved and pulsed with the same iridescent light that ran beneath Alara's skin. High above, the transparent dome revealed the vast expanse of space, illuminated by the gas giant's swirling storms. My ancestors helped design much of Zenith's infrastructure, Alara explained, her fingers trailing over a crystalline plant that responded to her touch by glowing brighter. Meridians have always understood the relationship between environment and consciousness. A beautiful space creates beautiful thoughts. Ren watched her interact with the foliage, fascinated by the subtle changes in her skin's luminescence. Is that why you glow, some kind of biological response to your surroundings? Partly, she turned to face him, the patterns beneath her skin shifting into more complex formations. Our bodies communicate constantly with our environment and each other. These patterns express emotions that words cannot capture. Ren found himself stepping closer, drawn by the hypnotic dance of light. What are they saying now? Curiosity, interest, her purple eyes held his, perhaps a little nervousness. You nervous? Ren chuckled. You're literally glowing with confidence. This ritual is important. The Velshara has guided my people's bonding choices for millennia. She began walking again, leading him toward a circular plaza where various species gathered around floating platforms of musicians. Tomorrow, I return home to begin formal bonding negotiations with Talon of House Vixaris. Ren felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. So this is just a formality before an arranged marriage. It's more complex than that. Alara stopped at a vendor and purchased 2 glasses of a shimmering blue liquid. The Velshara often confirms compatibility, but sometimes it reveals, she hesitated, incompatibilities. She handed him a glass, their fingers brushing. Something electric passed between them. Ren was certain of it, especially when Alara's luminescence flared brightly for an instant. And what if tonight reveals incompatibilities with this Talon person? Ren asked, taking a cautious sip of the drink. The taste was surprisingly pleasant, like honeyed starfruit with an effervescent finish. That would be problematic. Our houses have spent years arranging this union, but the Velshara cannot lie. She took a longer drink, then added, my mother's Velshara led her to reject her arranged match and choose my father instead. The scandal nearly ruined both families. But they were happy. Alara's patterns shifted to warm, golden hues. Deliriously so. My father says their biorhythms synchronized the moment they touched, a rare phenomenon our scientists still cannot fully explain. The music around them changed, drawing their attention to a mixed-species ensemble playing an ancient Earth melody blended with harmonic overtones from at least 3 other worlds. Couples began to gather in the center of the plaza. Would you like to? Ren started to ask. I've never danced with a human, Alara interrupted, setting down her empty glass. Ren smiled, placing his beside hers. And I've certainly never danced with a Meridian. Shall we compare techniques? As they moved to the center of the plaza, Ren found himself unusually self-conscious. He danced in dozens of spaceports with partners of various species, but something about Alara's graceful movements made him acutely aware of his own body. On Meridia, dance is communication, she explained, beginning a slow, flowing motion that reminded Ren of underwater ballet. We tell stories with every gesture. What story are you telling now? He asked, attempting to mirror her movements. My journey to this moment, she replied, her luminescent patterns forming concentric rings that pulsed outward from her core. And what of human dance? Ren took her hand gently, surprised by its warmth and softness. For us, it's sometimes about the story, but mostly about connection. He guided her into a simple 2-step pattern, finding rhythm together. As the music swelled, their movements synchronized naturally. Alara was a quick study, anticipating Ren's lids with increasingly perfect timing. They drew admiring glances from onlookers. A human and meridian moving in such harmony was clearly an unusual sight. Your heart rate has increased, Alara observed, her face closer to his than strictly necessary for the dance. So has yours, Ren countered, feeling the quickened pulse where his fingers rested lightly against her wrist. You're very observant for a human. And you're very warm for a crystalline being. Their banter continued as they explored progressively lower levels of the station. In the bustling market of level 26, they sampled street food from a dozen worlds. Alara was delighted by the sensory chaos of the human quarter, so different from the ordered perfection of meridian spaces. How do you function with so much disorder? She asked, watching a group of children chase a hovering toy through a crowded thoroughfare. We thrive on it, Ren explained, guiding her through the crowd. Humans need a little chaos, too much order, and we start to feel trapped. Is that why you chose to be a cargo runner, freedom from order? Ren paused, considering her insight. I never thought about it that way, but maybe. My family wanted me to join Earth's diplomatic corps, follow the rules, climb the ladder. I lasted exactly 1 semester before borrowing a training vessel for an unauthorized trip to the Jupiter colonies. Alara's laughter surprised him, a crystalline sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. You're a rebel. Says the noblewoman spending her sacred ritual night with a penniless freight jockey instead of someone appropriate. Their eyes met and something unspoken passed between them. 6 hours into their night, and the pretense of mere cultural exchange was becoming harder to maintain. Each shared story, each moment of laughter, each accidental touch was building something neither had anticipated. There's somewhere else I'd like to show you, Ren said impulsively, taking her hand again. Something few visitors to Zenith ever see. Lead the way, rebel, Alara replied, her fingers intertwining with his as naturally as if they'd been holding hands for years. As they boarded a maintenance lift to the station's outer ring, Ren tried to ignore the way his skin tingled where it touched hers. This was a transaction, he reminded himself. A cultural ritual, nothing more. Yet the look in Alara's amethyst eyes suggested she was thinking the same contradictory thoughts. What had started as a simple night of conversation was evolving into something far more complex, and neither of them seemed able or willing to stop it. This is against at least 17 station regulations, Alara whispered as they emerged onto the external observation platform. Unlike the carefully controlled viewports throughout Zenith's public areas, this maintenance deck offered an unfiltered panorama of raw space. No protective barriers, just a force field thinner than a breath separating them from the void. 23 regulations, actually, Ren corrected, using his freight operator credentials to override the final security lock. But the view is worth every violation. As the airlock cycled open, Alara gasped. The universe sprawled before them in unfiltered magnificence, nimbuses, violet storms churning below, 3 moons in perfect alignment above, and beyond them, a stellar nursery where new stars blazed to life in clouds of cosmic dust. It's overwhelming, Alara said, her voice hushed with reverence. Her luminescent patterns pulsed in sync with the distant nebula, unconsciously mirroring the cosmos. This is why I became a cargo runner, Ren admitted, standing close beside her. Not for the credits or the freedom, for this, the universe unframed and untamed. They stood in silence, shoulders touching, absorbing the majesty of creation. The platform hummed gently beneath them, a reminder of the station's constant rotation. My family believes the universe was sung into existence, Alara said finally. That's why music is sacred to us. Each note echoes the original creation. Beautiful concept, Ren murmured. Humans have 1,000 creation myths, but my favorite is that we're all made of stardust. Everything we are was once forged in the heart of a dying star. Alara turned to him, her face bathed in starlight. Perhaps that's why your touch feels so familiar. We share the same cosmic origin. The air between them charged with tension. They were close, too close for the impersonal cultural exchange they had promised each other. Ren found himself memorizing her features, the way starlight played across the contours of her face. There's something I haven't told you, Alara whispered, her patterns shifting to deeper hues. About the Velshara. What is it? It's not just conversation, she admitted. Our bodies record every reaction during this night. Our pulses, our chemical responses, our biorhythms. The data is analyzed to predict compatibility with our intended mates. Ren stepped back slightly, so I'm what, a control subject? No, she reached for his hand, her touch surprisingly urgent. You're the variable that reveals truth. If I respond to you differently than expected, it indicates potential incompatibility with Talon. And how are you responding? Ren asked, his voice lower than intended. Before she could answer, the platform shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed crimson as the station's emergency system activated. What's happening? Alara steadied herself against Ren. He pulled up his comm interface, scanning station alerts. Micrometeorite collision in Sector 14. They're sealing off damaged compartments. He studied the schematic with growing concern. We need to move. This section will be depressurized in 10 minutes. They hurried back toward the airlock, but a secondary explosion rocked the station, slamming the heavy metal door shut before they could reach it. Ren's access panel sparked uselessly. The override's been damaged, he realized, trying manual controls with no success. Alara's skin pulsed with rapid, anxious patterns. How serious is this situation? Ren hesitated, then decided honesty was vital. Very. This section is scheduled for emergency venting. The force field won't sustain us against space. It's designed for momentary exposure only. Fear flashed in her eyes, but she nodded resolutely. Then we find another way. They scanned the platform. Beyond the main airlock was a narrow maintenance conduit, barely large enough for a person to squeeze through. That service tunnel might connect to the secondary systems, Ren pointed. But it's tight, really tight. Alara was already moving toward it. I've spent my life in elegant spaces with high ceilings, Ren. If claustrophobia is the price for continued existence, I'll gladly pay it. Working together, they pried open the access panel. The tunnel beyond was dark, narrow, and seemed to stretch endlessly into the station's infrastructure. I'll go first, Ren offered, but Alara was already sliding into the confined space. No time for chivalry, she called back. Besides, I glow. That makes me the logical choice for leading through darkness. Ren couldn't argue with her logic or her courage. He followed her into the tunnel, trying not to focus on how the walls pressed in from all sides or how the station's vibrations suggested further structural damage. They crawled through the labyrinthine passages, guided by Alara's natural luminescence. Each junction required quick decisions with no guarantee of safety. Throughout it all, Alara maintained remarkable composure. For someone raised in luxury, you handle crisis well, Ren observed as they navigated a particularly tight section. Noble houses aren't just about privilege, she responded, voice echoing in the metal confines. We're trained from childhood to lead during emergencies, though I admit, she paused to catch her breath, this particular scenario wasn't covered in my education. They reached a vertical shaft where the tunnel abruptly ended. Above them, emergency lights flickered, indicating a station level that hadn't been sealed off yet. We need to climb, Ren said, testing the metal rungs embedded in the wall. Some looked corroded from years of exposure to condensation. Those don't appear entirely stable, Alara noted, concern evident in her voice. They're not, Ren agreed. I'll go first this time. If they'll hold me, they'll definitely hold you. He began climbing cautiously, testing each rung before trusting it with his weight. Halfway up, a rung snapped under his foot, leaving him dangling precariously by his hands. Ren, Alara cried out from below. I'm okay, he grunted, finding new footing. Just stay back in case I fall. Instead, he felt her presence directly beneath him, her hands steadying his feet. We either both survive this night or neither does, she stated firmly. Now climb. Working together, they ascended the shaft, reaching a maintenance hatch just as the station's warning system announced final depressurization procedures for the compromised sectors. Ren pushed through the hatch, pulling Alara up behind him. They collapsed on the floor of a service corridor, breathing heavily as the hatch automatically sealed behind them. Through the walls, they heard the distant hiss of air being vented into space. For a long moment, they simply lay there, limbs intertwined, heartbeats racing in tandem. Are you hurt? Ren finally asked, brushing debris from Alara's face with gentle fingers. Nothing serious, she replied, though her skin bore several small cuts that leaked a shimmering fluid. You're bleeding. Ren hadn't noticed the gash on his forearm. It's nothing. Alara took his wounded arm, examining it closely. Then, to his surprise, she pressed her palm directly against the cut. A warm sensation spread from the point of contact, not painful but intense. When she removed her hand, the wound had stopped bleeding, sealed by a thin layer of crystalline material. What did you do? He asked, astonished. Our bodies produce healing catalysts, she explained. It's not often shared with outsiders, but these are extraordinary circumstances. Their eyes met in the dimly lit corridor, and something profound passed between them. They had faced death together and emerged alive, connected in ways that transcended the cultural exchange they had initially agreed upon. You know, Ren said softly, still not moving from their close position, this wasn't exactly what I had in mind when I responded to your listing. Alara's luminescence pulsed in what Ren now recognized as amusement, nor I when I posted it. Her patterns shifted to a deeper, more intense glow. But I'm discovering that the Velshara reveals truths in unexpected ways. What truths is it revealing to you? Ren asked, his heartbeat quickening. Alara placed her hand over his chest, her expression becoming serious. That perhaps my life's path isn't as predetermined as I believed. She hesitated, then added, my biomonitor has been recording unusual patterns since we met, patterns I've never experienced before. Is that good or bad? It's unprecedented. Her hand remained on his chest, warm and electric. In meridian physiology, certain responses only occur when the station's communication system crackled to life, interrupting her revelation. The emergency was contained, all passengers were instructed to return to regular activities. We should get back, Ren said reluctantly, though he made no move to rise. Yes, Alara agreed, equally motionless. We still have 3 hours of the Velshara remaining. Their faces were close now, breaths mingling. The air between them charged with possibilities neither had anticipated at the start of the night. What happens in those 3 hours, Ren whispered, is entirely up to you. Alara's response was to lean forward, closing the final distance between them. The first hints of artificial dawn crept through the panoramic windows of the suite, painting Alara's crystalline skin in hues of gold and amber. She lay beside Ren on the viewing couch, her head resting against his shoulder as they watched Zenith Station's environmental systems simulate a sunrise. Neither had slept, unwilling to sacrifice a single moment of their dwindling time together. It's beautiful, Alara murmured, observing the changing light, though nothing compared to Meridian's triple sunrise. Tell me about it, Ren encouraged, his fingers tracing the luminescent patterns that pulsed beneath her skin. They had spent the past hours in an intimacy neither had expected, not just physical, but a sharing of minds and experiences that transcended both their cultures. Our 3 suns rise in sequence, she explained, her voice soft with memory. First the white dwarf, then the yellow giant, and finally the red sun. For 7 minutes each day, they align perfectly, bathing our crystalline cities in prismatic light. We call it the harmonic convergence. Sounds magical. It is, she turned to face him. You should see it someday. The unspoken question hung between them. Would there ever be such a day? The night was ending. Their agreement would conclude with the dawn. Ren brushed a strand of crystalline hair from her face. So what happens now? You return to Meridia and your arranged bonding. Alara sat up slowly, her luminescence dimming to thoughtful blue patterns. The Velshara is meant to confirm compatibility, not create complications. She reached for the ornate band around her wrist, her biomonitor, and activated its holographic display. Complex patterns of light formed above her arm, showing intertwining waveforms that Ren couldn't interpret. These are my biorhythms from before tonight, she explained, indicating one set of waves. She touched another control and a second set appeared, overlaid on the first. And these are my current readings. Even to Ren's untrained eye, the difference was striking. Where the first set showed ordered, predictable patterns, the current readings pulsed with vibrant irregularity. Is that bad? He asked, uncertain. It's unprecedented. She manipulated the display with practiced fingers, zooming in on specific segments. But there's more. A third waveform appeared, one that closely paralleled her current readings. What's that? She said simply. I took baseline readings when we first met for comparison, but look, she aligned the 2 patterns which nearly matched perfectly. Our biorhythms have synchronized. Ren studied the display with growing understanding, and this is significant because it never happens, she whispered, except in cases of true bond matches. Her voice wavered slightly. In our entire recorded history, there are only 17 documented cases of complete biosynchronization between meridians and their chosen mates. None have ever occurred with a non-meridian. The implication stunned him, so according to your tradition. According to biology, not just tradition, she corrected him. Our bodies recognize compatibility at a cellular level. The Velshara merely confirms what our ancestors discovered through science millennia ago. Ren stood, packing to the window as the artificial dawn completed its cycle. The station was waking up around them, another day of commerce, travel, and the endless flow of interstellar life. But you're already promised to Talon, he said finally, stating the uncomfortable reality. Yes, Alara's luminescence dimmed further. The union of our houses will secure trading rights to 3-star systems. Hundreds of thousands depend on that stability. Ren nodded, understanding the weight of her responsibility. So we just, pretend this never happened. Is that what you want? She asked, her voice carefully neutral. Of course not, he turned back to her, raw emotion breaking through his practiced indifference. But I'm a freight jockey with a leased ship and more debts than prospects, your nobility destined for political marriage and leadership. This was supposed to be one night, a cultural exchange, a transaction. Alara rose from the couch, moving to stand before him. Is that all it was to you, a transaction? The genuine hurt in her voice made him regret his words immediately. No, you know it wasn't. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. But what's the alternative? You abandon your duty, I abandon my freedom, neither seems sustainable. A gentle chime interrupted them, someone requesting entry to the suite. Alara's expression fell. That would be my escorts, she said quietly. My family's ship arrived an hour ago, they're here to collect me. Reality crashed around them like a failing force field. Their 12 hours were up. So this is it, Ren stated flatly. I need time to think. Alara moved away, collecting her formal outer robes. The implications of this synchronization are significant. I must consult with our biological archivists before proceeding with any bonding ceremony. How much time? I don't know, she hesitated, then removed an ornate crystal pendant from around her neck. Take this, it's keyed to my personal communication frequency. When I have answers, I'll contact you. The pendant was warm in his palm, pulsing gently with her unique biorhythm. A piece of her, literally. The door chimed again, more insistently. I should go, she said, but made no move toward the door. Alara, Ren began, then struggled for words. How could he articulate what had developed between them in just 12 hours? It defied rational explanation. Last night. Changed everything, she finished for him. With swift grace, she closed the distance between them and pressed her lips to his. Unlike their earlier passionate encounters, this kiss held the bittersweet tang of farewell. When they separated, her luminescence had brightened to a warm, golden glow. Whatever happens, Ren Takeda, know that the Velshara revealed a truth I wasn't prepared for. My people believe the universe guides souls to their proper alignment. Perhaps ours were always meant to converge. The door chimed a third time, followed by an authoritative voice. Lady Alara, we must depart, your father awaits. She squeezed his hands once more before stepping back and composing herself into the regal bearing of Meridian nobility. When she spoke next, her voice carried the formal tones of her station. Enter, she commanded. The door slid open to reveal 2 tall Meridian guards, their crystalline armor identifying them as house sentinels. They regarded Ren with undisguised suspicion. Lady Alara, the transport is prepared, the lead guard announced, pointedly ignoring Ren. Thank you, Voros, I am ready. She gathered her ceremonial cloak around her shoulders, once again becoming the noble Alara that Ren had first met 12 hours ago. Only the lingering warmth in her eyes betrayed their shared intimacy. Safe journey, Ren offered, defaulting to formal protocol in the presence of her guards. May your path be illuminated, she replied, the traditional Meridian farewell containing a depth of meaning only they understood. Then she was gone, swept away by her escorts, leaving Ren alone in the suite with only a crystal pendant and the echo of synchronized heartbeats as proof that the night had been real at all. He moved to the window, watching the sleek Meridian vessel docked at the station's primary hub. Soon it would depart, carrying Alara back to her world of crystal cities and triple sunrises, back to duties and expectations that had no place for a human cargo runner. The pendant warmed against his skin as he clutched it. A communication device, yes, but also a promise. Whether that promise would ever be fulfilled remained to be seen. The Meridian ship disengaged from the docking clamps, its crystalline drive glowing as it prepared for departure. As it turned gracefully toward the jump point, Ren's comm unit chimed with an incoming message. The text was simple, written in both Meridian script and standard. The night ends, but the synchronization remains. Trust the rhythm. E. Ren watched until the ship disappeared into the swirling vortex of hyperspace, carrying his heart with it. One night had changed everything. But whether it was the beginning of something extraordinary or merely a beautiful memory to sustain him through lonely cargo runs remained uncertain. Dawn had broken, the Velshara was complete, and now the real challenge began. 28 standard days had passed since the Velshara. Ren checked the count again as he guided his small freighter into Zenith Station's commercial docking bay. 4 weeks of silence. 4 weeks of wondering if the synchronization had been real or merely a convenient fiction to soften their parting. The pendant remained warm against his chest, proof at least that Alara lived. Meridian crystals were biolinked, they would grow cold if their owner perished. But beyond that basic reassurance, it had offered no communication. Docking complete Takeda, the station's automated system announced. Payment transferred for cargo delivery. Balance after docking fees, 4,320 credits. A decent haul for a three-system run. Enough to keep his ship fueled and his license current for another month. Yet the satisfaction he once found in a completed contract felt hollow now. Ren completed the shutdown sequence and gathered his personal effects. Perhaps a drink at Koda's would clear his head. Or maybe he'd finally accept that shipping consortium offer that would take him to the far side of the sector, as far from Meridian space as possible. As he stepped into the station's bustling main concourse, his attention was immediately drawn to the massive viewscreen displaying breaking news. Diplomatic crisis looms as Meridian Noble House BREAKS Generational Alliance. Ren froze, staring at the scrolling text beneath the headline. Lady Alara of House Salrith has formally withdrawn from arranged union with Talon of House Vixaris, citing irreconcilable biological incompatibility. Sources close to both houses suggest unprecedented findings during her pre-bonding Vilshara ritual. His heart hammered against his ribs. She had done it, rejected her arranged match based on their night together. The implications were staggering. "Big news, huh?" commented a passing station worker, noticing Ren's fixation on the screen. "Those crystal folks never break contracts, must be something serious." Yeah, Ren managed something serious. He hurried toward Koda's bar, mind racing. If Alara had publicly rejected her match, what came next? The pendant remained silent against his skin, offering no answers. The bar was unusually crowded, filled with station personnel discussing the Meridian diplomatic situation. Ren squeezed through to the counter where Koda was pouring drinks with practiced efficiency. "Look what the void dragged back," the three-eyed bartender greeted him. "Thought you might have left for good this time." "Not yet," Ren replied, nodding toward his usual drink. Koda slid a glass toward him. "On the house, you look like you need it." "That obvious, ho." "Your aura's been off-color since that night with the Meridian," Koda observed, lowering his voice. "Speaking of which, you see the news." Ren took a long drink just now. "Interesting timing, you showing up the same day that story breaks." Koda's middle eye narrowed suspiciously, almost like you knew something was coming. "I didn't," Ren admitted. "Haven't heard from her since she left." "Well, someone's looking for you," Koda said, nodding toward the entrance. "Been in twice already today asking about the human freight navigator Ren Takeda." Ren turned, scanning the crowded establishment. "Who?" "Meridian, not her, someone older, formal type, left this for you." Koda handed over a small crystalline data chip. "Said you'd want to see it privately." Heart racing, Ren pocketed the chip. "Thanks, I should go." "Whatever you got yourself mixed up in," Koda called after him, "be careful. Meridian politics are dangerous for outsiders." Ren made his way to a public data terminal in a quiet corner of the station. His hands trembled slightly as he inserted the crystal chip. The screen illuminated with a formal document bearing the intricate seal of House Salrith. As Ren read, his breath caught in his throat. By declaration of the biological archivists of Meridia and confirmation of the Council of Houses, the biosynchronization recorded during the Velshara ritual between Lady Alara of House Salrith and Ren Takeda of Earth represents the first documented case of cross-species harmonic resonance. As such, it falls under the ancient provision of the celestial exception, superseding all prior arrangements and obligations. Lady Alara requests the presence of Ren Takeda on Meridia for formal evaluation and consideration of bonding rights. Transport has been arranged. A location and time followed. Diplomatic docking bay, upper level, 1800 hours. Today. Ren checked his chronometer, barely an hour from now. He sat back stunned. Formal bonding rights. With a Meridian noble, such a thing was unprecedented. Interspecies relationships weren't uncommon throughout the galaxy, but Meridians maintained strict biological and social protocols around bonding. For them to consider him eligible meant overturning centuries of tradition. His pendant suddenly warmed, pulsing with an intensity it had never shown before. When he touched it, a holographic message appeared, Alara's face, rendered in crystalline light. "Ren," her projection spoke, voice filled with emotion. "If you're receiving this, you've been given the formal invitation. The past weeks have been difficult, challenging my family's expectations, consulting the archivists, fighting for recognition of what we both know is true." Her image smiled. "They tested my biorhythms against Talon's, no synchronization whatsoever, but when they analyzed our recorded patterns." She paused, luminescence brightening. "The archivists called it a miracle." I call it inevitability. The hologram flickered as she continued. I understand if you choose not to come. One night is not a lifetime. Your freedom means everything to you, and Meridian society would place many constraints on that freedom. I wouldn't blame you for declining. Her expression grew more serious. But if you do come, know that I've secured unprecedented concessions from my family. You wouldn't be required to remain on Meridia. My father has agreed to fund a trading vessel for us, one that would satisfy both your need for the stars and my diplomatic duties. The message ended with a simple plea. Whatever you decide, the synchronization was real. The universe revealed something extraordinary to us that night. The question now is what we do with that revelation. The hologram faded, leaving Ren alone with the most significant decision of his life. The diplomatic docking bay gleamed with polished efficiency, a stark contrast to the utilitarian commercial ports Ren frequented. He stood uncertainly at the entry, wearing the best clothes he owned, still woefully inadequate for the occasion. A sleek Meridian diplomatic vessel occupied the primary dock, its crystalline hull refracting light in dazzling patterns. House Salrith's insignia adorned its bow. Guards stood at attention near the gangway, their expressions impassive as Ren approached.